their software, they can make the edits, they can make the changes that they deem necessary for their communication, and they can add on environmental control and accessible apps as well. So environmental control being that some of our devices have the capabilities of controlling your TV, for example, using IR, or your windows, your doors, and your blinds using radio frequency then as well. So you can control with your communication device, giving you that independence to be able to control those particular aspects of your house. And also the accessible apps. So through C5, there is the accessible apps page set, which I will show you in a while. And that's giving someone the independence to be able to go onto YouTube, go onto Netflix, go onto the internet and surf the web. Also to, go onto your WhatsApp and send your messages, and even to do social medias like, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so on and so forth. So I'll show you more about them now as well in a second. So basically, what we're, I suppose, saying in a nutshell is that the user is in charge, basically. So they're in charge of doing what and when they want, basically, of the device itself. So they're able to make those changes. So they can input their own messages, for example. So if you have your own page set and you want to add in phrases, maybe there's everyday phrases that you use that aren't already there, and there's something you want to, you've just thought of, you want to say, but it's not on your page set. The user has that ability to be able to add that button themselves, whether it be, touch, switch, or eye gaze. They can add that button in. The keyboards and languages, so they have the ability to change over the keyboards themselves and switch between the languages. The sound, again, they have the ability to be able to turn it up and turn it down. Again, no matter what the access method, you have the ability to do that. Again, changing applications, so whether it's going between TD Snap to Communicator 5, or even going onto the internet and things like that. The user setup, so even if they want to change their user setup, for example, the dwell time, for an eye gaze user, they might find that, their dwell time might be too slow in one aspect, so they need to speed it up here, and they need to reduce it down in another area. Whether it's a keyboard, for example, they can reduce that down and increase that up at their own convenience. And also the system settings as well, so little settings in the background for the system, for the device. Maybe it's changing the brightness of the device. They have that ability to change all those themselves as well. Also, so if they want to say things quicker, so there is different areas as well to help them to, tools, I suppose, for fast and efficient communication. So word and phrase prediction, for example. So within the communication side of things, you have that prediction that helps them to communicate faster, be it a word, be it a phrase as well. You have dwell times. So again, as I mentioned, you can increase and decrease the dwell times depending on whether you're using the keyboard or whether you're actually at the home page using the different applications. You've got quick chat, so you can basically access a quick chat. So we'll say, for example, I'm having a conversation, but all of a sudden I'm in the cafe and I'm having a conversation with someone, but the server comes down and asks a quick question about, do you want more coffee? I can quickly jump into my quick chat, which I'll show you in a while, and I can say no to that, maybe, or yes to that, and then go back to my conversation that I was having with someone else. You have speech history, which actually is a great feature as well for someone who's, using, phrases, and they've, used phrases throughout a specific day. They can go back into that speech history, that recent speech history, and they're able to go back to those phrases and they can say them again. So if it was something that they said they've actually forgotten about, they can jump back in and they can see those phrases and they can speak those phrases again to remind themselves or to tell someone else as well. Maybe it's some news that they wanted to share with someone. They can share that news straight away by going into the speech history and then accessing that phrase and telling someone else, for example. Stored phrases, very similar to speech history. So your stored phrases, you can store them as well. So they do store in the same area as speech history, but you have access to actually save your phrases as well into specific categories also. Abbreviation expansion, that's very similar to your speech history as well, or sorry, apologies, your word and phrase prediction. So the abbreviation expansion, for example, if I said, hi, how are you? What I can do is I can actually use that abbreviation expansion to say HHY. So hi, how are you? I can put in the first letter of each word and automatically then it's going to speak that abbreviation for me. Okay, then you've dwell-free keyboard, so you can access the dwell-free keyboard on the device, and also there's different keyboards as well for access as well. Okay, so what I'm going to do anyway in a while is I'm going to show you these particular features as well, but I'm going to just kind of bounce down through the slides as well just to show you as well. So going back to what I was mentioning about word and phrase prediction, when you're in C5, for example, and you're doing that communication, you see that you have the words. So you have C, can, could, and cheers. That's if we're starting to write, the first few letters. So we typed in C, and that is our word prediction. Then we have our phrase prediction above. So maybe it's predicting that phrase that we want to speak, for example. Okay. The next then, we've got the quick access to the phrases from the keyboard. So as I mentioned, you have those phrases. So you see here from this particular screenshot of the keyboard in C5, you've got the button for the phrases. So I can go into those phrases, and maybe that's a phrase that I had saved previously. That smells good. You know, we're talking about our dinner, for example. So we have that phrase, we can pop into the phrases, quickly press our button using eye gaze, switch, or touch, and automatically it'll say that phrase for us. The abbreviation expansion of stored phrases, as I mentioned as well, if we had a specific sentence, here we're typing in, for example, CYC. And then you see, for example, can you change my position? So CYC are the first letter of the first 3 words. So that's speeding up that conversation even more, just knowing the first letter of each word, and I can get my saved phrase or my speech history phrase, and that will pop up for me straight away. I can use that for communication. The accessible apps then as well to keep the users connected. So we'll talk about that now. Accessible apps are basically the newest feature for Communicator 5. So you'll see with accessible apps, we're able to add in things like, you know, Spotify, YouTube, Netflix, Instagram, Facebook, lots of different ones. And there's always updates. So there's new ones being added in. For example, TikTok was added in recently. And there's lots of other ones as well that have been added in as well, which I'll show you as well in a while. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to go over to, I suppose, the softwares like TD Snap and Communicator 5, just to show you a demo, just to kind of give you an idea of the different areas, and especially as well, just kind of go back where I was showing you there as well a second ago. I'm just going to jump in first of all to TD Snap, just to show you TD Snap, okay? So TD Snap for communication for text users, you'll see here when I open up the software itself, we have got on the left-hand side our quick fires, our phrases, our keyboard, and our notes. So our quick fires are everyday phrases that we speak, basically. For example, I need help. What's up? Go on. Yes, no. So if I press one, for example,
I need help.
You'll see it speaks it for me.
What's up?
And it's going into the message bar, okay? So it's easy for me to obviously, you know, use my phrases here. And again, using no matter what access method it is, I can access that and then it'll speak my phrase. If I was the user themselves, and you know, if I had spoken a message, so let's say, for example, I'm in my keyboard and I'm writing a brand new phrase that I've never spoken before. So I can say, for example, hi, how are you? Okay.
H.
So just using my predictive up the top. So you see again, you have the predictive word on TD Snap. Okay, so I've spoken my phrase. Now that's something that I want to say to people on a daily basis when I greet them. You know, I just want to say, oh, hi, how are things? How are you, basically? So I can jump back into my phrases, for example, and I can go into a custom topic. Let's say, for example, we're going to start a new custom topic, custom 1. So I can click in here. This is a completely blank topic. And what I can do is if you look to the top right-hand corner, we've got a copy to button selection here. So I can press that button. It gives me this option then, okay, select the button that you want the button to be received in the text, basically. So where do we want our text to be? So I'm going to select the first white button. Selecting that, you'll see the button, the text jumps straight into that. I can accept that. And now I have that button. So when I clear my message bar and press this button, you see I have my phrase saved then straight away. So it's a very quick, easy way to access that phrase and put that phrase in for ourselves then. Okay, so that's TD Snap and that's putting the phrases. So now what I'm just going to show you as well, Communicator 5. So doing the same thing, but with Communicator 5. Okay, so we'll open that up there now. It's opened up there a while ago. Sorry, apologies. Just open it up again now. Don't know how it closed down on me, but we'll have a look. Okay, so when we open up Communicator 5, we'll see that we'll be on the home screen. So you'll see there's a lot more access in Communicator 5 compared to TD Snap. So TD Snap will be your really entry-level communication. So if you had just a text user that just wanted to use it for communication, it's great to use just TD Snap for that. But if you had someone, you know, who had communication and also wanted to use accessible apps, you could always have a link between both. So even if I jump back to TD Snap for a second, and I've actually created a button in the dashboard of TD Snap. So when I select TD Snap, I can select launch application. Now I can give this whatever name I want. So I can put the text into launch C5, for example, launch accessible apps, or launch a different application on my computer. So I can press that. It's going to open up, you see TD Snap minimized, and it opened up the C5 for me. You'll see I also have a button down the bottom saying Snap. If I wanted to jump back to my TD Snap, here we have it again. So we can launch back between, you know, to and from different applications. So we don't have to go and search for them on the computer. We just have specific buttons that will bring us between the two softwares as such. Okay. So as I mentioned, when you're on C5, here now we have, more control. So we have things like, the environmental control, like your windows, your doors, your blinds. You have your communication. You've also got your accessible apps. And as I mentioned, obviously the new one of TikTok, you've got accessible Twitch. That's the latest there now as well. Every time there's an update, there seems to be a new accessible app added. So you've already got loads as well. You've got Amazon Kindle for reading. You've got Facebook. You've got Twitter, Instagram, Spotify. You've even got WhatsApp as well for your messages, and YouTube, and even Zoom as well, because we're all using Zoom at the moment. It's great, obviously, as well, that you can now just it's accessible for everyone. Okay, so just going back to the text side of things again. So obviously I mentioned about the text-based page that's on TD Snap. So I'm just going to show you now what I was talking about in relation to the different areas of Communicator 5 and text. So up the top left, we've got speak. So if I go into speak here, we now have our keyboard, okay? So going back to what I was mentioning earlier about the quick chat, for example, if I was having my conversation, and again, I'm going to say HHAY, so hi, how are you? Now you'll see I put in that abbreviation. That's not in there already. I have never said that before in this particular user, so it's not coming up, okay? So I can clear my text. I can say hi, space, how. Now it's going to predict anyway for me, so how are, okay, you. So how are you feeling, for example? So I can select that one and that comes up. Okay, so I'm having a conversation with someone next to me in the cafe, but then all of a sudden the server in the restaurant comes along and says, oh, would you like some more tea? I can jump in. So down the bottom of the screen, you'll see next to the close keyboard and the symbol, you've got quick talk. Selecting that, I can say no thanks yes, I can say actually thanks. Yes, I love some more thanks. So I can say thanks. Okay, then I can close quick chat. And I'm back to that conversation again that I was having with the person next to me. So it's not going to interrupt that conversation. I don't have to delete everything, type in something new to speak to someone else. I can just automatically go into my quick chat. If I even jump back, it's still there. I can clear that. And then maybe I want to, the server has come back down again and I'll say, no, thanks. Okay, so no, thanks. I'm done, for example. Thanks, I'm done. Again, close quick chat, back into our normal conversation. And here we have that then as well. So as I mentioned as well, we have the word and the phrase. The phrase is predicted as well. So again, if I go back into, say, for example, hi, so hi. So again, we have, the words here. So maybe it's predicting the words or what the next word will be. And we've also got the phrase. So say hi to everyone for me. How is it going? Hey, I'm right here. Hi, I'm. So it's predicting all the time for you. So no matter what you're typing in, it's going to help you and it's going to predict what you're trying to say, basically, just to speed up that conversation, whether it's just a word or a phrase, for example. Okay, so what I want to show you next, before I go into, I suppose, the accessible apps and go through and show you all the different types of accessible apps for the communicators, what I want to show you is the message banking. So again, as I mentioned earlier, I'm not going to go into too much detail about how to, create them and how to edit them, more just to show you where to find them and the good resource that they are. So what I'm just going to do is jump into that there now. Just bear with me now. Okay, so I just minimize this. Okay, message bank. So you have it here now. Okay, so you'll see here now, basically, if you set up a MyToby Dynavox account, you have access to this particular feature. This feature is completely free. So even if someone who, if you know someone who is degenerative and, they have their voice now, but down the line, they might be losing their voice. What you can do now is you can record all these messages for now, save them on this particular, on the MyToby account. You'll have them for as long as you need them. And then when you need them, you can just download them and put them on the software. So it's great that it's a free service that you can just set up your MyToby account by going to mytobydynavox.com. You put in your username, your password, just a small few details. Once that's done, then you basically log into your account. So if I jump back to MyToby here, you'll see this is the home screen itself. You have got hello Michael, so it's log me in. It's just telling me this is my account, this is my stuff, so I have my account, so I can change the details around. And the next one after that is message bank. So if I click into message bank, you'll see here now you got support and you've got my messages. So when I select my messages, you'll see that you've got a lot of different saved messages here now. So these are ones I've already created and I've saved, so I can play these if I want to listen back to them again.
I have two children. Their names are Oisin and Rachel.
Okay, so you'll see that you have those saved phrases and they're there. So you put in the title of what the the phrase is and the text basically as well. So you can fix this around. Sometimes it's not 100% accurate, the text that will actually appear up. So you can listen and then you can change that around, you can edit it. And then once you have the the confidence at 100%, you'll see there's 94, 94, 93, for example. Once you see, the system will predict how confident it is that it guessed the right words. But sometimes with our Irish accents, it's probably not going to guess it properly. So you might need to just edit it slightly a little bit. But once that's done, you have your phrases saved here. You can then put them into tags or categories. So for example, if you're creating a folder or a topic on TD Snap or Communicator 5, you can create those folders. So at the first two you'll see are greetings, the next two are food and drink that I have separated. So you'll see that you can create those categories and then you can add them later on to your communication software. So they can be added to either TD Snap or Communicator 5, and I have them already on Communicator 5, sorry. So if I just minimize this there and we'll close the keyboard, I'll go back out. So next to speak, we got speaking with phrases. And this is another handy feature, and this is what I was talking about a while ago with your speech history. So if I select the speech history, these are the particular phrases that I have said recently, okay? So, hello, my name is Connor. Hi, I have a reservation number, and so on and so forth. So you'll see there is an arrow right and up and down, sorry, on the right-hand side. So all your history is going to go in here. So even if it's something you said months ago, it's probably going to be way, way down, but it is going to be there in your history itself. So you just have to search for that particular phrase then itself. Okay, so that's your speech history. If I go back then as well, and just go back to here, already I have it here. So in the speaking with phrases, if I jump back in, I've got this particular category up the top right, and they are my banked messages that I showed you a second ago on the MyToby account. So I can click in here, and again, we have the particular phrases. So if I select them now.
Can I have a drink, please? Good morning. It is nice to see you.
Okay, so they are the phrases, my banked messages that I had from earlier, now saved into the software. Okay. So just going to jump back there now. And what I'm going to show you now, okay, so we've kind of gone through the tech side of things. So that's your TD Snap and also your Communicator 5. I'm just going to quickly have a look over on the left-hand side to see if there is any questions. And then I'll bounce into the accessible apps for you. Okay. No, I think we're good. I think it's just links that Ashita was popping in there from earlier that I was mentioning. So that's grand. Excellent. So back to accessible apps on C5. So you'll see here now on my screen that I'm sharing at the moment, we've got the speak and the speaking with phrases. And as I mentioned, that's your tech side of things. You've got your all remotes and your home. So that's your environmental controls. So that's your being able to program in your TV remote. So for example, if you had a user who liked to watch specific channels, for example, if 501 being your Sky News, you can program that button in so that the user doesn't have to, use their access method to press 501. They can just either press one button, or if it's eye gaze, again, look at that one button and automatically select the channel that you want to go to. So Sky News, RT, Virgin Media, so on and so forth. Okay, so if I just jump into that just to show you all remotes, TV1, this is just a basic one. If you had someone who just wanted to change the channel up and down, change the volume up and down, and turn on the power and turn off the power of the TV. So that is your TV remotes. Then you've got accessible apps like Audible. For example, I can jump into Audible. Now, I don't think we're signed into an Audible account, but just to show you the kind of menu, basically the accessible apps work with a company called Joinin. So Toby Dynafox have teamed up with Joinin, and basically this particular software itself works alongside of updates that happen with any software. So, for example, you might see with other softwares, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, they're constantly updating. And when they update, what tends to happen is that the software, the communication software, can't follow along. It has to be updated because the links would get broken. So the communication software company has to then change the links and upgrade them. But the great thing about this is there's dynamic links built into the actual Joinin. So no matter what, if there's any updates done by Facebook, by Twitter, by Instagram, by Spotify, or anyone at all, if they upgrade their links or anything like that, there's dynamic links built into this Joinin software, so they follow automatically. So there's no having to wait a few days until the links are fixed and things like that. They're just done straight away, so you never have to worry about that at all. So you're not without that aspect of your communication then. So this is your particular audible page set, and you'll see the menu appears on the left-hand side here now. That can be changed for the user as well, whether they prefer it on the left-hand side or the right-hand side. The menu can be switched between both. So you'll see for this particular one, we have, our title options. So we have the different audible, box or, playlist that we have. We've got the menu, so we can go into the menu. We can go up and down. So you'll see as I press down here now, it's going through my selection. Okay. Then what I can do is I can read the title, I can play it, or I can stop reading if I don't want to, if I want to stop at a certain area. So pressing menu just to jump back and pressing exit, and then pressing close and exit brings us back to that home screen. So I'm going to go into, for example, Netflix now. So again, Netflix, you'll see here now. And with this particular page set, you'll see the menu has this sidebar position. So if I press sidebar position, automatically it's bounced over to the right. So again, that's giving that user that freedom, that independence to say, I prefer to have it on the right, or I prefer to have it on the left. Again, this is accessible through different access methods, be it eye gaze, switch, touch. So we can select that, bring it back over. And then when we're happy, if we want to log in, we just press Netflix. That logs into Netflix. So it just loads for a few seconds. If there's updates, it might just do the updates for a few seconds. So it automatically does those updates for you as well. So you don't have to worry about that. Once that's opened up, then you will see you have the menu on the left-hand side. So again, you're going through your titles. So we can select Connor, for example, going into Connor's profile. And then what we can do is we can go down through the different options. So you'll see as I press down, it's going down through each category. So I can say, do I want to go into watch it again? Do I want to go into popular on Netflix? Do I want to go into comedies, for example? And then maybe it's the one over here. Maybe it's Bad Boys I want to watch. Maybe it's, War Dogs I want to watch. I can select a specific one. And then if I want to, watch Bad Boys, I can press play. And automatically that starts for me then, as you can see. So we have that particular, channel on our screen. So again, I'm just going to jump back just to show you another few, pressing exit and pressing close and exit. Okay. We've also got, for example, Spotify. So again, I can jump into Spotify, clicking on Spotify. Again, this loads up our Spotify account. Okay. And once we're logged in, then we'll see we can go through our library. So we might, when we're logged in, once we have our account, we can go through our libraries, we can go through the playlist, we can search for new music and so on and so forth. So again, you have full access using the menu on the left-hand side. You have all those links. So I can go down through the links. So I can say down, down, down. I can go up maybe. I want to go into Olivia's playlist. I can select that one. That goes into that. And then what I can do is there's a whole playlist here. I can press play, pause music. So I can press the play. And that's going to start playing for me then. Okay, so just pause that again there now and press back. Okay, so Spotify menu, clicking on that, clicking on exit, clicking on close and exit, and that brings us straight back to the home page then as well. So I'm just going to jump back to the slides just to see the rest of the accessible apps. So just bear with me now. Okay. I'm going to check as well if there's any questions as well. Okay, so back onto the slides. Okay, all good so far. Excellent. So as I mentioned here, we have the accessible apps. So these are some of the accessible apps, as I mentioned there now. So some of them were downloaded on C5. These are kind of more of the ones that are there. So again, as I mentioned, there is Zoom, there's MSN, there's Spotify, there's Messenger for Facebook, Instagram, Netflix, text messaging as well. So if you wanted to connect your phone, you have the text messaging, YouTube, TikTok, Google Calendar as well, for example, WhatsApp, Facebook, and much, much more as well available there as well. So as I mentioned, there's dynamic page sets. So again, you have these different types of page sets, and you will see you have the menu on the left-hand side. So you're never going to be left without your accessible apps. No matter what, when they're updating, everything will always update with you. So you have the deep linking for the accessible links themselves. So always you'll be with your accessible apps. You'll never be without until an update happens for the other softwares. Okay. So that is pretty much the software side of things, the text-based page set. So just in relation to the devices, so obviously we talked a lot about that software, the TD Snap and the C5 and the accessible apps. So in relation to the devices, it's kind of deciding once you have, your software, what's the best device for me. So obviously there's the eye gaze devices that we do have out there. So eye gaze devices, they're, they're more limited than the likes of touch devices, for example. So eye gaze devices, you have your iSeries, you have your iMobile or PCI. So they're your dedicated communication devices for eye gaze users. But then, for example, if you were a touch user, what is the difference between a dedicated device versus a consumer product? So the main thing here is you're really looking out for the main features that the dedicated communication device can actually offer the user rather than the consumer product. So you really need to look at the access method. As I mentioned, the eye gaze is very specific kind of type of a device, the performance of the device as well. So the dedicated communication devices are built around performance for the user. The battery, then the life of the batteries will last longer than your normal, I suppose, average device themselves. The speakers, then they're built for communication. So you'll see, for example, in the new devices like the iSeries, the i110, they're very, very loud. They have that really good speech output for the text user. So as the text user does input their messages, automatically the speakers will create that loud voice back out of the speakers at the back of the device. So while you might have an iPad that has that small speaker at the corner, it's not amplifying that sound out for the user. So the likes of the iSeries, the i110, the SE tablet, they're all built for that communication to speak out for the user. You've got the durability, so our devices then would have durability tests, so they're a lot stronger than your average consumer product itself. Then the costs, obviously they're cost effective for the particular types of devices that they are, and they do come with warranties as well. So you have those warranties as well, be it 3 years, 2 years, or even purchasing additional ones for 5 years for that extra security as well on your device. Okay. So that's pretty much it in relation to the text page sets for communication.